Welcome to the third season of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs such as my new best friend. You're my new best friend, you know that, right?
Absolutely.
Sandrena Schumacher. Now, that's your original name.
Schumacher is the original name.
Schumacher, but now your stage name is Benz, right?
There you go, because it's very confusing to people because I have the last name of Schumacher.
Oh, Schumacher, and here in Phoenix, Arizona, there is one of the largest Mercedes-Benz dealerships. It's called Schumacher.
Correct.
Mercedes-Benz, right?
Exactly.
Or something like that. And you pulled up in this little baby right here.
I did pull up in that.
It's a white. Tell us about this thing, right?
This is a 2016 white GTS that I pulled up in, and it has about just under 200 miles.
Now you're showing off.
Well, it's not my car. I just borrowed it to drive it here. Hopefully one day I'll be driving that car.
You came in style.
Absolutely.
You were originally, you have an amazing story to tell because you're a phenomenal entrepreneur and you have an incredible story. You're originally from Sri Lanka.
I was born in Sri Lanka, correct.
And you lived in Hong Kong.
I was raised in Hong Kong.
And how does a girl that was born in Sri Lanka, which is in the Indian Ocean south of India, for those of us who maybe do
correct.
not
It's
have
north,
our geography.
It's north of Australia, south of India.
South of India.
Exactly.
How does a girl from Sri Lanka get to the Mercedes-Benz dealership here in the
Well, in a
United States,
nutshell, and long story short, I was born in Sri Lanka, raised in Hong Kong, parents of Norwegian and Sri Lankan, and I was a spoiled little kid in Hong Kong and didn't appreciate what she had. So my mother cut my credit cards, put me on a plane, gave me $2,500 US, and sent me to America to face reality. So I looked at her and I said, what am I going to do the second day?
How old were you?
I was 20.
You were 20. And so you're coming to the United States, you're 20 years old, and you have no idea what the future is going to depart. Did you have a plan or what? I mean, you're here.
How could you have a plan with $2,500? I didn't have a plan. I figured, they're sending me here to face reality, so I have to.
But you have dreams.
I have dreams. My dream was, even though I was a spoiled little kid that got everything, now
Yes.
I was, from having everything, I went to starting my life in America with nothing. So I cried for about the first 1.5 years. Absolutely did not like this place. But
when you arrived, did you arrive to the East Coast or the West Coast?
To California.
To California. Okay, so you were in California.
Correct.
And you're crying for a year.
I was crying for a year.
And what happened?
Well, I was determined to make it. I didn't call home. The easy way out would have been call home and ask for money or, transfer funds. And I remember going through days I didn't even have enough money for food. I would buy a biscuit from Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it was like a solid lead carb. So I would eat the top half for breakfast and eat the bottom half for dinner, and I was determined to make it and prove to my family that I could actually do something.
In this journey, right? Because this is hard. I mean, this is
hard.
This is not easy. You're here in a foreign land,
correct,
with absolutely no support system.
No support system. I had a few friends.
But you're surviving in here, and so there must have been a point in time when you knew that life was not going to be like this all the time.
Correct.
Tell us about that time.
I think when you're raised and you're given everything, some people might think it's a wrong thing for a kid to be spoiled. But I would look at it in a different way. I was blessed to have that, so I knew the taste of something good. So even though I went from this great place to rock bottom, I knew I had to get back up there because I liked the finer things in life. And there's nothing wrong in liking the nicer things in life. You just have to work at getting it. It doesn't just fall in your lap.
And it's not immediate. It's not fast.
No,
it's a process. It's a journey.
It's a journey. Correct.
Did you find a job in corporate America? What happened?
Well, my family was in the clothing business, so I was always used to, designing labels and working with clothing. I didn't really work in Hong Kong. I was just running around to all the parties and nightclubs and things like that, getting in trouble. But I was approached by a clothing boutique. I actually started working for a men's clothing boutique, and then a French clothing boutique approached me and said, "You look different, you're unique, we would love you to work for us." So my next step was I was on Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills, and I worked for a clothing company called Le Chateau, and that's where I started from.
So now you are self-sustaining, you're making a little bit of money.
Correct.
And what happens next?
What happens next? Well, it's a journey that I've been on since the last 16 years. I got into this industry in the car sales business because I actually went into a Mercedes dealership to look at a car, and the salesperson thought that maybe I couldn't afford the car. I looked like a little kid, and pretty much told me, you know, you're looking at the big cars. Why don't you look at the little cars? I said, but I like the big cars. And he kind of just scooted along, and then after about 25 minutes, another salesperson came and had a different attitude, but once again, not what I expected in a car dealership. And I was young, I was driving in a Mercedes at that point, which I had worked hard to get. And I thought, you know what, I have to get into this business and make a difference.
You have to get into the experience that you had of somebody essentially stereotyping you. You walk into a Mercedes dealership, you don't look the part, whatever that part may be.
Yeah, and I don't know what that pot is either.
Right,
Yeah.
of buying, or a customer to buying a Mercedes Benz. You're not treated correctly. You're waiting around the dealership in the room there in the dealership for about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Nobody's coming to you, and then finally somebody comes to you, and you think to yourself, I can do a much better job than anybody
Correct.
in this place. And so you purposely.
Well, I approached that dealership after I actually bought the car. I bought a nice S-Class, and I approached the dealership and I said, I would love to work for you guys.
What was the reaction?
Oh, you have to have 10 years of experience in the car industry to get to Mercedes-Benz. So I went to BMW because I like the German cars. And BMW said, you know, we would get somebody more experienced who's been in the industry for like 5 to 7 years. But you can fill out a resume or an application and we'll keep it on file. So I said, okay. So I actually drove over to Lexus, and this is where I started the journey at South Bay Lexus in Torrance. I walked up to the general manager, and maybe he was a little cocky at that time, and went up to him and I said, I hope you don't make the same mistake as Mercedes and BMW. I think you should hire me because I am unique. And he said, who are you? And I said, I believe you work on commission only, so you're taking a risk. Give me, a few months. So he said, okay, signed all the papers, and I walked outside to the sales floor. And I believe there must have been about 20, 21 salespeople, all gentlemen. And they looked at me and they said, oh, honey, you're not going to make it.
Honey, you're not going to make it.
And I said, why not? And they said, well, you're a girl. And I said, okay. And they said, but since you're cute, go greet the clients, bring them in, and we can take over.
Oh my God.
And I thought, oh my goodness. I mean, I was just so shocked that I took all the brochures home. I probably stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I memorized the wheelbase, the weight of the car, the length of the car, just about everything that I could memorize. And I went back to the dealership the following day. And there was a couple of clients that just came in, and they were looking at the new LS 430, which replaced the LS 400. And I still remember the gentleman. He said, oh, this is the new car. And the sales guys that were standing there, they said, oh yes, it's a bigger car, sir, it's longer. And I said, actually, it's 196.7 inches. They increased the wheelbase by 3.8 inches and the height by 1.4, but it remains the same size. So the client looks at me and he goes, I think she knows what she's talking about. I'm dealing with you.
Wow.
So I said, not only will I survive, I'll beat all of you in a year. And I did it within 6 months.
Wow.
And I can say from my heart, the reason I'm blessed, I sell from my heart. I would prefer not selling you a car than selling you the wrong car. So if you go into a dealership, there's a special. That's the car that's pushed. I'm a little different. I get in trouble for doing that, but it's in my heart that I need to look after the people.
Sandrena, you're one of the most successful Mercedes. I wouldn't want to call you salespeople because you said something the other day that you're selling dreams. You're not selling cars.
I'm selling dreams, yes.
Well, that's a dream. Whatever
is a dream.
Yeah,
And anybody
It's a
can
very
get.
real dream right out
Correct.
there. $150,000 dream right out there.
Yes.
But what makes you successful is what in your mind? If somebody's watching this interview right now and wanted to be like you, follow your footsteps, what would you say is the secret of your success?
That's a tough question.
It's an easy question for you.
Let me see. Well, firstly, I wanted to make a difference. I got into the industry. I think more women should be in the car industry. But it's not an industry that women usually look at or maybe even consider, because it is the long hours and it is basically 98% male dominant. It is a struggle. 16 years later, I'm still getting there, still getting there.
There's still some resistance from the...
Exactly.
Okay.
But what I tell my clients is I've created a private client sector of the dealership of Mercedes-Benz of Scottsdale. What that means is when you come and buy a car, you don't have to sit at my desk for 6 hours or 8 hours. You can actually buy a car in half an hour. You know what you want to do with the car, and I know what I can do to help you out. So within that half an hour, you do the transaction, but after that, you get my cellular number put into your phone before I pair it to the car. And my pledge is, even after the sale, I'm a phone call away. At 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, if something happens, if my phone rings, guess what? I'm answering the call.
Sandrena Schumacher, you're my new best friend. Driving that car. We're going to take me for a spin?
Absolutely, of course. Yes.
Yeah? After the show, maybe?
Yeah.
You're terrific. I appreciate you coming over.
Thank you.
Sandrena Schumacher, with the eponymous name. Schumacher is one of the biggest...
No, I'm just going to Sandrena Benz.
You're just going to be Sandrena Benz.
Yes, exactly.
And if you want to drive one of those things and you have about a little bit less than $150,000.
Well, this was on sale for about $145.
Go see Sandrena. You're out.